Tick-tock, the clock talks, but secrets are its power. The only one to break its spell is Skywynne, Queen of Hours. In 248, Queen of Sirrrrrrrrr gave birth to her first heiress, Princess Skywynne, Sky Scent in Lomunion. Her hair was the color of salmon and blue eyes of her father, Jermaine Fields. She wore orange hourglasses on her cheeks. As a child, Skywynne appeared to be much more mature for her age. On one hand, it was good because she was full of confidence of her parents. On the other hand, however, people outside her family circle saw her as an old child. Servants report that seeing the princess playing with her toys was rare, preferring the company of books instead of children of her age. She also had strong, rickety schedules, becoming easily impatient with seconds of delay. The contrast between her and her sister Notora was evident, with the youngest one having a more warm personality. Skywynne began to be instructed in teachings of her mother's code from the age of 5 when her literacy began. At 7, she started playing music lessons. However, Skywynne proved to be a complete disaster both singing and playing and was soon taken out of the class for relief of ears in the court. In compensation, Skywynne showed great talent for dance. In 258, the princess began her training with the personal guard of her mother, Queen's Guard, and she built a personal bond with Dame Lily Flowers, or Auntie Lily, as she called her. During the tournament of 258, as she strolled through the fair, Skywynne found the stall of a foreign merchant who had the first mechanical watches for the Butterfly Kingdom. She bought all the watches from the tent and started her collection. The princess, fascinated with seeing the synchronized spinning hands, and made her interested in studying time. The same year, Skywynne was informed by her mother that she would marry in the future with a boy from House Flowers. There was no negative reaction from Skywynne at the time. Just 2 years later, some thought of disgust for having to marry of obligation would begin to emerge, though she never expressed it. 262, a week before her birthday, Skywynne was walking through the village when she met a 16-year-old boy named Philbrick, who donated bread and soup to the poorest commoners. The boy's gentle charm captivated the princess's heart. She finally turned 13. Skywynne inherited a royal wand. However, the main surprise came to the feast when it was introduced to her fiancé, the son of Daisy Flowers, who studies gastronomy in Elfindor, Philbrick. A curiosity that the princess didn't take the smile off her face even for a minute during the feast, and this wasn't a forced smile, much less conscious. Skywynne and Philbrick danced and spent the rest of the night and later of the week talking and getting to know each other. Philbrick returned to Elfindor at the end of that week. They would come to maintain contact through weekly letters, which would tighten the bonds between the two. As they created, Skywynne's desire at Philbrick in Syria allowed her to go to the university dimension, however, only later. While that day didn't come, Skywynne devoted herself wholeheartedly to magical studies. The beginning of her magic training focusing on spells that involved more specific improving of spells of Selena the Smitten and creating more new ones. She proved to possess an invisible magical ability that taking part of the power of her mother Syria, who until then was the most powerful queen that ever passed by Muni. Finally, at 263, she went to her immunity shortly after turning 15. Assyria announced that she would go to the Elfindor. Skywynne had informed Philbrick of her going to the university dimension, intending to give him a surprise. However, she ended up having bad luck because when she entered Elfindor, Philbrick was leaving, which caused a mismatch. They would continue their exchange of letters, but now in reverse positions. Studying astronomy, Skywynne proved herself to be a dedicated and great student. Her teachers were only compliments to the princess, who showed an intelligence beyond average with notes and bordering on perfection. In less than a year, she migrated to the astrophysics specialization, where she began to focus more on time studies. It didn't take her long to start tackling time in her magical studies. Skywynne's first great time spell was to enchant every watch in her collection, turning into little gadgets that allowed time bubbles to be created. However, an accident occurred and one of the clocks crashed, creating a space-time anomaly, arresting Skywynne and other 4,000 students and teachers in the Infinity Loop. The situation was so critical that a personal investigation of the Omnitrax Prime was necessary. Against the quest for knowledge, Omni and I agreed not to censor Skywynne's time spells. On the contrary, we have chosen to teach her more about how space-time works, preventing such a problem from happening again. Whenever she found some free time between her classes, she traveled to the planes of time to learn from Omnitrax. It was during this encounter she met Father Time. Skywynne graduated in 266 at the age of 18. She received an award from Elfindor's facility for completing a course in specialization that would only take 10 years and only 4, joining Elfindor's most honorable student gallery. Skywynne expected her to be greeted with joy on her return to Muni. However, the threat of the self-proclaimed Lupus Emperor thwarted her expectations. As soon as she returned, Assyria ordered her and her sister to go to the sanctuary, a spot found by her grandmother Asteria, where she had kept children safe during her historic rescue. Seeing the worry and fear in her mother's eyes, Skywynne didn't argue and left her sister and another 12 guards to the hideout, where they stayed for 2 weeks until they received confirmation that Assyria had put an end to the Lupus threat. She was not only relieved by the return of her parents, but also by the return of her fiancé Philbrick, who had also left for the Gorge. Early in 267, Assyria and Germain left for the marriage of Minerva Lupus and Prince Laurel, which would seal the peace with the continent unless Skywynne's command of help of Queen's Guard Witness reports point out that before climbing to the carriage, Skywynne pulled the parents up and hugged them, asking them not to go. Asir wondered why, and Skywynne just said she had a bad feeling. The princess further stated that if anything happened, she would join the banners and march up to the Lupus kingdom. However, Asir reiterated that nothing would happen, and even forbade her to risk her life for hers. Before leaving, Asir presented Skywynne with an orange watch, the most accurate clock in the universe, which she longed for since her collection began. In this period, Skywynne was also able to cope with her duties assigned her by her mother, the royal issues, aided by Queensguard and Nortura, who sometimes had crises of a teenage rebellion since she went to Elfendor. Then, 4 days later, Skywynne was in the royal office when a knight came to inform her about her mother. The princess was so happy she didn't even know the fact the knight called her Your Majesty. The princess only began to worry when she and her sister met with Queensguard and the ministers in the private room, where she found that something had been wrapped in the white towel on the table. As she pulled it, Skywynne and Nortura found their mother's naked corpse, which had been stabbed and violated with marks. Together, there was a letter left from Minerva Lupus saying, As long as the wolf is alive, the sheep will never be safe. She took my family away, I'm just returning the favor. Don't march north if you want to share her fate, and peace between our kingdoms be maintained. Still in shock, Skywynne suffered a shower of advice from urging her to avenge her mother's death, including Nortura. However, she just replied, I can't, as my first royal act disobeyed the last order of my mother's. Perhaps the wisest answer, but not the ones the other wanted to hear, especially your sister, who started discussion in front of everyone and left the room, calling Skywynne weak. It was the last time Skywynne saw her sister, who would be reported missing after she went looking for her in the room and found it empty. Also, disappearance of all Nortura's jewels and Skywynne's orange watches are reported. All of this made following a 12 days of mourning even more painful for Skywynne, who couldn't bury her father and listen to the dragonet's cry at night. After this period, her coronation took place in the Celestium of Muni, in one of the most morbid ceremonies ever recorded in history. The next day, Skywynne would take a big thump with the dissolution of Queensguard. She tried to prevent the knights from separating, but they kept arguing, saying that a knight who doesn't keep his oath is not worthy of its title. Even with everything ruining around her, Skywynne found some joy in Philbrick. Her fiancé had to find her every day since her mother's death and offered him for anything she needed. It was during this period that Skywynne also began to study hypnotic and memory spells. All events led to an inattention to Skywynne, who only after days when going to her first meeting with ministers and not finding them, noticed a diminution of Munians in her castle and town. Skywynne's suspicions proved right as she opened a portal with dimensional scissors and went out to a camp of butterfly army set up around the fields of Lupus Kingdom. In the tent where the ministers were discussing tactics, Skywynne entered to a warm discussion with her subordinates. While they argued will bring avenge her mother, Skywynne saying that killing Minerva wouldn't bring her mother back, and completing with one of the most famous phrases, Tell me where is the honor to sacrifice 10,000 lives from one that is gone. After saying that, the Lupus army bells began to ring. As the gates opened and the large Lupus army came towards them, Skywynne immediately realized they had no chance and it was too late to flee. The ministers asked the queen to return safely to the kingdom. However, Skywynne positioned herself at the head of the platoon and conjured a spell she only turned a few times with the drops of water and watercorns, the slow motion spell. When the Lupus army showed itself to move super slowly, the butterfly army wasted no time attacking, even with Skywynne not supporting much, having to repeat the spell several times in the battle, or some gray hairs in the process. The butterfly army managed to equate the battle. Battle ended when a few of the Lupus soldiers turned on their own companions. These rebels were remains of the royal army, whose prince, Minerva's husband, was hostage in the dungeons. As for Minerva, Skywynne and a few soldiers found her dead in her room. She was sitting in an armchair in front of a window that gave view of the battlefield, with an orphean steel coin under her tongue and a knife nailed to her forehead with the letter, a wolf or a butterfly, death gives gifts to all. Minerva's body was burned along with the Lupus flags. It reported that the Lupus massacre made its way to its own people, not caring about her own death. Prince Laura was liberated and proclaimed king of the new royal kingdom. He even offered her to marry Skywynne, but she declined because she was already engaged. The king stated that the kingdoms would be in peace at last, and to prove his confidence, he returned the bones of Germaine Fields so that the queen could give her father an appropriate burial. As for her sister, Skywynne hoped that Nortura would be along with the butterfly army, but unfortunately she wasn't there. The Lupus problem solved once and for all, Skywynne was finally able to focus on her royal duties. She dismissed all former ministers who, despite their victory in the Battle of Slow Motion Field, had disobeyed her orders and replaced them with her children. One of the new ministers was her future sister-in-law, Orchidea Flowers. For her marriage, Skywynne chose not to rush it. Despite pressure from the ministers, she preferred to invest in building a relationship with her fiancé before getting married, which was facilitated with Philbrick working as a royal chef at the castle. In less than a semester and some private dinners between the two, Skywynne and Philbrick's relationship was finally on a romantic level. Even now, clogged with royal duties, Skywynne wasn't released on her quest for magical knowledge. On a day to the Firefly Library, The Queen discovered in the documents by Queen Polaria that the ancient minions channel magic through magic glyphs. Unfortunately, all knowledge about it had been lost in time and information scarce. The only known glyphs are the mirror and the hourglass and the pyramid. The third glyph is the one with most information. Skywynne reports having found the symbol carved in the same brick that opened the passage to the secret room that had been found by her grandmother Asteria, in a notebook used by her Maria at Elfendor. Skywynne found a statement from the princess about the glyph. The ancient Munians used a symbol to hide a secret room and passages and made the whole construction extremely durable, which would explain why the ruins of the Empire stand even after a cataclysm that should have reduced each building to a pile of crumbs. As for the other two glyphs, Skywynne found herself utilizing them in a more personal use. She carved the mirror into a brush so she could magically touch her gray hair. The hourglass she used to create a security system in the Firefly Library, which would prevent any information from being stolen by arresting the thief in an eternal temporal loop until it gave up. 270, Skywynne was in the royal cabinet when two knights knocked on the door, saying that a girl claimed to be Princess Notura wanted to talk to her in the gardens. However, when she got there, she found no one, just a bundle on the bench. Opening it, Skywynne faced her orange watch had disappeared along with Notura. She ordered the guards to search every inch of the kingdom, even offering 4,000 gold suns in rewards, but the girl wasn't found. The same year, during an attack by a rogue group of monsters on cornfields, Skywynne performed her most famous spell, Warnicorn Stampede. This event also marked Skywynne's last spell with her magic wand and entry to the magical high dimension. Even without a wand, Skywynne proved so skilled in magic as her mother, Asteria, one of the great deeds allowed to slow time around the Astral Bell, so that Romulus could crystallize her before she invoked the black hole. Skywynne's marriage would take place in 271. It was the end of the feast she committed on one of her great personal regrets. She promised Philbrick that he could choose the name of their firstborn. 273, she gave birth to her heiress, a girl with pink hair and eyes and red crosses on her cheeks. As she promised, Philbrick named her. However, it is reported that when he named her daughter as Supina, Skywynne's smile disappeared, and she asked more than once if she was sure that that's the name he wanted. In 287, Skywynne passed the wand to Supina, and months later she would discover that she was pregnant with her second daughter, who would be born the following year, named Nebula, a girl with salmon hair and cheek marks and pink eyes. A terrible plague fell on Munich between the years of 289 and 291, plowing the cornfields, spreading hunger and disease through the infected maize, and sweeping a third of Munich's population. The epidemic was controlled by the efforts of her daughter Supina. Skywynne and Nebula were victims of the disease, but fortunately they were saved by the royal princess in her magic suit. In 292, Skywynne faced a great challenge. The announcement of the engagement of Princess Supina was a commoner named Osmond, which oriented the creation of the House of Cross. At the request of the princess, the queen faced many negative opinions from the nobles, especially after she used her positive influence on Elfendor to get 6 siblings of Osmond to study at the institution, which is seen as a royal favor. In 294, on Supina's wedding day, Skywynne receives information from Lady Rosewood Forest that a group of monsters had surrounded the south and southeast gates of town. Without wishing to cause any conflict on the most important day of her daughter's life, Skywynne went against the group with only Lady Forest and a few guards. All reports point that Skywynne would have left the gates and the monster group would have just stood and left without rebelling. In fact, it's real, but it's far from being that. The queen cast a spell on the watch she carried to withstand a spell that trapped her and the group in a time loop, which would restart whenever she wished or were killed or when the watch was destroyed. According to Skywynne, she had died more than 80 times in different ways, always returning to the point where she left to negotiate with the general. In the end, the group accepted the surrender after Skywynne said they would be her eternal prisoners unless they turned around and never returned. Although she had accomplished more than a great feat, the spell took its toll. Skywynne left the castle with salmon hair and a few gray hairs, and returned with gray hair and some salmon hairs. She would pass the crown to Supina only after the ceremony and would focus on the remainder of her life on Nebula's creation. Skywynne would still serve as Supina's advisor and would continue to serve on the Magic High Commission until she departed in 303 at the age of 55. Skywynne still lived to see the birth of her royal granddaughters, Galaxia and Polarcia, at 304 and 307. Skywynne died of multiple organ dysfunction syndrome in 317. For a long time, the Queen of Ours would be Queen Butterfly, who lived the most at the age of 69.